spookiest places. And I've had this book for a while and I haven't read all the stories. And I had read 2 stories that I had never read before, and they both were very historical. It didn't really have anything to do with ghosts. It was kind of an absolute failure. So I decided that I'd give it a second go and try this again. Hopefully there will be more ghosts. So, not to discredit this book, obviously full credit to Steve Vernon. This is a really, really cool book. I've read lots of other stories from this book that weren't like that, and the stories that I did read yesterday were very interesting because I didn't really know much about them at all. I read about the Bears Lake Mystery Wall, which apparently, just out of Bears Lake, for people who don't know, that's a business park here in Nova Scotia. There's this mysterious wall where and it's super old, dating back to the 1700s, and nobody really knows where it came from, and I had no idea that existed or was a thing or whatever. So I guess I did learn something. And then the other one that I read was about the Halifax explosion, and that was also really interesting, but it was pretty much just a tale of what happened instead of ghosts. That was kind of my fault. So I'm going to choose some spookier ones and get going. I also, I am not very good at reading aloud at all. I trip up and stumble time and time again, and I will try my best always, but if I mispronounce things or stumble, I am so sorry. I am trying my best. So, this book is super cool. I really do love this book. It has a little map of Nova Scotia with some spooky ghosts. So the cool thing about this book is that it's separated in sections, based on parts of the province. So there's the Eastern Shore, Halifax, the South Shore, the Western Shore. There was one that stuck out to me yesterday that I did really want to read in the Halifax section, so I'm going to start with that one, which was The Whispering Dead of the Chebucto Road School. I don't know much about the Chebucto Road School, but sounds spooky. That's on page 143. Way to sit and read this. Do I have room to put my hand here? The Whispering Dead of the Chebucto Road School. Early meteorologists, inspired by tales of torrential rainfall following the battles waged during the Civil War and the Napoleonic Wars, came to believe that clouds could be shook up by a battle enough to trigger a rainstorm. Whether you believe an artillery barrage can bring on rain, the weather that followed the Halifax explosion was a good demonstration of the theoretical weather phenomenon. The day after the Halifax explosion, the city was hit with a record-breaking snowfall. Mind you, the meteorologists now know that the blizzard was forming long before the city's smashing blast. Remember, satellites and cable televisions weren't around back then. Over 40 centimeters of snow fell on the morning of December 7th. That was nothing compared to White One, February 2014. But when you dump that that much snow on top of a demolished city filled with blind, deaf, and shell-shocked citizens. You're in for a real mess. People took shelter wherever they could. There were over 12,000 buildings damaged or destroyed. Shelter was at a premium, not only for the living but also for the dead. The Chebucto Road School, being a large but in relatively undamaged building, was used as the first triage and first aid center. Shortly afterward, the school served as a morgue as the people in the first aid center succumbed to injury and lack of proper medical facilities. The authorities were doing the best they could, but the explosion had already killed more than 2,000 people and left 3 times as many homeless. They had to improvise. No one had ever planned for a disaster such as this. The basement of the schoolhouse gradually evolved from being used as a morgue into a makeshift funeral home. Coffins were carried in and out, and a team of priests and ministers hastily administered whatever final rites were thought most appropriate. An event like this is bound to leave an impression on young minds. For decades after, the students of the Chebucto Road School tried their very best to avoid spending too much time in the basement, even though the school washrooms were located down there. There are ghosts, more than one student claimed. We can hear them whispering in the shadows and moving in the darkness. In 1995, the school closed. The building became home to the Halifax Board School of Commissioners Music Department. It now houses the Maritime Conservatory and Performing Arts. The conservatory has since been renovated. The Assembly Hall, which is now known as the Lillian Piercy Concert Hall. I haven't heard any recent reports of hauntings, but perhaps the ghosts have learned to appreciate good music. That's interesting. So the school used to be where the conservatory is. That building looks haunted. Just saying. Okay. Shall we choose another one? Maybe from a different section. The first story that I just accidentally flipped to is the ghost of the White Point Beach Resort. So, I feel like that's probably a good one. I have only gone to the White Point Beach Resort once, but my boyfriend's family, used to go all the time, I believe. But there is some interesting history. There was a fire, and then there's apparently a bullet hole in the bar or something like that. So I'm curious to see. Okay, the ghost of the White Point Beach Resort. One of the true pleasures of my storytelling profession is when I'm asked to go tell stories in other parts of the province and or the country. I've told my ghost stories several times down at the wonderful White Point Beach Resort and Lodge, and I always had a wonderful time there. Originally founded in 1929 as a private hunting and fishing lodge, White Point eventually grew to become home to one of Nova Scotia's most well-known vacation spots, employing almost 200 Nova Scotia workers. Then, on November 12, 2011, tragedy struck. The main lodge caught fire and burned down. Thanks to a lot of hard work, the White Point Lodge was rebuilt and reopened exactly 1 year later, better than ever. Now, a lot of you folks might know that the White Point Lodge is actually supposedly to be haunted by not just one, but several ghosts. Let me tell you a bit about them. The most well-known White Point ghost would be the spirit of Ivy. Ivy was the wife of Harvey Elliott, one of the earlier owners of the lodge. Ivy managed the resort's food and beverage department. She was, by all reports, a very tough lady to work for. She was a stickler for detail and would not put up with the slightest infraction of culinary etiquette. For example, if a piece of silverware was placed in the wrong location upon the dining table, Ivy would be known to pick up the offending bit of cutlery and fling it at whatever employee had the misfortune of placing it. stories have their own particular ivory story. This is like a quote. I was working late one evening about 10 years back, setting the dining room for a large convention banquet that was scheduled to take place the very next day. Sid, the bartender, the bartender at the lodge's bar told me back in 2010 during my first Halloween visit at the lodge. I was tired, and I guess I had somehow misplaced a dessert spoon, Sid said. By the time I realized my mistake, I was absolutely exhausted, and I did not want to go back and reset each of the tables and take that one stupid spoon. At that point, Sid went on to the dining room lights went out. I fumbled in the dark for about 5 whole minutes before finding a proper switch. When the lights came back on, I was surprised to see the dessert spoon flying at me, clanging off my forehead and leaving a mark. I was even more surprised when I realized the entire dining room had been reset with all the dessert spoons carefully relayed in the proper position. He grinned, laughing at this point, and tipped me a wry wink. I don't really know if there's such a thing as ghosts, Sid said, but I believe deep down in my heart of hearts that Ivy was looking out for me that night. She reset the tables and flung that spoon just to remind me not to make the same mistake twice. And do you know what? Sid went on. I haven't made the same mistake ever again. I just look at a dessert spoon and my head starts to ache all over again. That's cute. The interesting part of this story is that I heard similar tales from several of the waitstaff as well as the people at the front desk. Ivy is still well known to the employees of the White Point Resort Lodge, but she isn't the only ghost that haunts this establishment. There is also a ghost of a caretaker named Danny who resided in what was known as Cabin 20, but is now Unit 137. Danny was a close friend of Ivy's, and after she passed, he was often seen walking through the trails, talking to himself as if he were talking to his good friend Ivy. The ghost of that old caretaker is still seen in front of his cabin. Sometimes he sits in a rocking chair, while other times he is seen raking leaves in the autumn. Whenever anyone tries to get closer to the ghost, he simply fades away or steps behind a nearby tree and disappears. Besides the ghost of Danny, there's also a third ghost that haunts the White Point Lodge. This would be the ghost of a 9-year-old boy whose family lived in the area in the early 1920s, back before the lodge was even built. The boy reportedly drowned while rafting off of White Point, and his body was never recovered. One look at the waves that restlessly pound the White Point shoreline, and you can imagine just how much difficulty a 9-year-old boy would have trying to steer the raft. Apparently, he had originally set out to go a little ways into the water, but a rogue current caught the raft and led him to his untimely demise. The boy's ghost is the shyest spirit to haunt the lodge. His apparition is rarely seen, but he is always described as wearing an old-fashioned overalls and rumpled white shirt. He is most often spotted upon the rocks or else out on his raft, drifting eternally. These 3 ghosts, in my opinion, definitely rank the White Point Lodge a spot on my top 10 list of most haunted places in Nova Scotia. That's really cool. I like that one a lot. I didn't know that. By the way, whether you believe in ghosts or not, these stories are just for fun and entertaining, but I've always wondered if I believe in ghosts or not. I've never seen a ghost, but my cousin has. I think I'm going to end on the White Point Beach Lodge and Resort because I thought that was a really cute one. I don't know, let me know if you want to hear any more. I will say, I read one about the old Halifax Public Library on Spring Garden Road, the one that got shut down before the new library was built. And I didn't know that it used to be a Halifax poorhouse. under like a thick layer of like soil or something. And I drove by kind of recently, and it's interesting because I never really like noticed it before, but like there's a stone wall and then the grass sits on top, so it's like a really thick layer of earth, and it just like creeps me out. I always heard, though, I'm not sure if this is true, I tried to Google it, but I couldn't find any result, which most likely means that it's not true, but I heard that they couldn't knock that building down because it's so infested with rats that like all of the rats would like leave and go to other establishments, and it would be this big problem. Who knows if that's true or not. Anyway, I think this book is super interesting and I very much like it. Some of the stories are like hit and miss of like how spooky, or they vary. But I hope you enjoyed listening to some. Yeah, I have another book that I kind of have to go digging around for that I would like to read. It's more like folklore of Nova Scotia, but it's got cool photos in it. And I think I would have to do like a different camera setup. Like I would more like you'd have to see the photos. Like I couldn't just read it to you. So